Jimmy Kimmel gets suspended. Is The View next? No! Terrorism charges are dropped against Luigi Mangione. And it turns out the FBI hasn't been all that honest. I'm shocked. That and more on this week's America Uncovered headlines. Welcome to America Uncovered. I'm Chris Chappell. I just want to say thank you all for leaving an American flag emoji in the comments. It's been a huge help with engagement and YouTube's algorithm, who's been enjoying me talking about Charlie Kirk's assassination about as much as Democrats enjoy people talking about Kirk's assassination. Speaking of Charlie Kirk, last week was a rough one, and we're still experiencing the aftermath. Many people on the left have celebrated his death and straight up spread fake news, like Jimmy Kimmel, seemingly implying the shooter was MAGA even after it was clear he wasn't. That didn't turn out so well for him. Now, there's a little more to the story. One of the media groups that's influenced ABC's decision to suspend Kimmel's show, Nexstar, is in the midst of a $6 billion merger with company Tegna. But it requires approval from the FCC, whose chief earlier this week considered charging Kimmel for spreading misinformation. That, of course, made people freak out that the Trump administration is launching an assault on free speech. Trump is going to silence anyone who criticizes him. But watch out, because Kimmel was the moderate. The left can't meme. And there is reason to be concerned after Pam Bondi said this Tuesday.
There's free speech and then there's hate speech. And there is no place, especially now, especially after what happened to Charlie in our society. We will absolutely target you, go after you, if you are targeting anyone with hate speech.
Just like Kirk would have wanted. After a huge backlash from both the left and right, she walked that back. But back to Kimmel and the FCC. It was more than just Nexstar with its big merger coming up that wanted Kimmel canceled. Advertisers complained, and other affiliate broadcasters, in particular the conservative Sinclair Broadcasting Group, said they weren't going to air the show, which would have crippled Kimmel's viewership, which already might not have been good. So, was this because advertisers and broadcasters were afraid of Carr coming after them too? Was it because they were genuinely upset with Kimmel outright lying about a very sensitive tragedy? I'm not sure we can know. Trump, for his part, was quite happy, and even suggested Jimmy Fallon and Seth Meyers would be next, which certainly fed into the narrative of Trump as an autocrat silencing criticism. But again, this is a misleading headline. What Trump said was, "I've read someplace that the networks were 97% against me." Again, 97% negative. Maybe their license should be taken away. Trump, full of lies, is only 92% negative. And that could be a problem. After Kimmel got canceled, FCC Chair Brendan Carr suggested The View should be investigated next. But that isn't some constitution-busting attack on free speech. The FCC has an equal time rule. Broadcasters have to provide equal opportunity to all political candidates, the exception being news shows. Carr said, you can make the argument that The View is a bona fide news show. But he said it's worth investigating that, as well as other shows, to see if they still qualify as bona fide news programs and therefore exempt from the equal opportunity regime that Congress has put in place. There is clearly an overwhelming bias in mainstream media, as well as outright lies being peddled to millions of Americans, which may play a part in radicalizing individuals to do something like assassinate Charlie Kirk. What is the solution? Can we solve it without violating the fundamental principles of America, the things Charlie Kirk died defending? One thing is clear. Banning Trump from social media had no future consequences at all. Trump is suing the New York Times for defamation and libel and is seeking $15 billion. Trump's lawyers claim the New York Times has become a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party, while the New York Times claims Trump is trying to intimidate them and stifle free speech. While many are saying this case is frivolous and vindictive, many said the same thing about Trump's defamation case against ABC, and he wound up banking $15 million in a settlement, which is unbecoming of a president. He shouldn't sue news outlets. He should make millions of dollars the traditional way, charging $400,000 to speak at corporate events like Obama, that speech is anything but free. Remember how initially an old man was arrested and believed to be the shooter in the assassination of Charlie Kirk? Well, that old man, George Zinn, admitted to police he did it to draw attention away from the real shooter. Zinn is widely known to Utah authorities as a political gadfly. This is a fancy term that means he's super annoying. He's been removed from and arrested at numerous protests previously, and he was even the first person banned from a newly opened Salt Lake City mall. And here I thought the worst thing old people did in malls was walk laps around them first thing in the morning. Zinn is facing obstruction of justice charges, though that's the least of his worries. He was also hit with CP charges after the police found, well, on his phone. Yeah, as if the story couldn't get any darker, they just threw a sprinkling of PDF file on the top. I think it's time for an America-uncovered mental health break. That's better. These are the only naked creatures under the age of 18 that should be on anyone's phone. Continuing on the theme of the aftermath of last week, there's Trump saying the U.S. would be designating Antifa as a terrorist organization. Again, if you forgot he did this already, don't worry, I also blocked out most of 2020. Will this time be different from 2020? And since Antifa isn't centrally organized, is it possible the Trump administration can simply accuse anyone of being Antifa and therefore a terrorist and therefore suspend their civil liberties like we saw with people accused of being terrorists after 9/11? I don't know, man. I'm just so tired. There's too much news and it never stops. It never stops. But Antifa is a little more than just an idea. I did a full episode on that back in 2020, which you should check out. I'll put the link below. But here's perhaps a silver lining to the story. Journalist Andy Ngo discovered an Antifa cell in Oregon is concerned that maybe they don't have the best PR right now. So they want to use Israel as a wedge issue to divide the right. That's beautiful. The extreme left and right coming together to hate on Jews. Progress? Meanwhile, remember Irina Zarutska's murder, which feels like it was 16 years ago at this point? There are rumors flying around on social media that the alleged killer, DeCarlos Brown Jr., has been released by a North Carolina judge. That's not really true. The judge just sent him to a mental hospital for a psych evaluation to see if he has the mental capacity to stand trial. Because maybe he just needs some treatment and can be released a 15th time. A New York judge tossed terrorism charges against Luigi Mangione, but kept the count of second-degree murder. This means that should Mangione be found guilty, he won't face a mandatory life sentence without the possibility of parole, which also means there's still a chance one of his groupies could wind up with him when he gets out of prison at age 90. Just wait another 60 or so years, ladies. Going from dream boats to drug boats, allegedly, the U.S. destroyed another alleged Venezuelan drug boat, killing 3. As I covered after the first alleged drug boat strike, Trump has declared war on what he calls the Venezuelan narco state that he claims is helping to flood drugs into the U.S. He says these drugs pose a national security threat and that it was confirmed these were drug smugglers. Though not everyone is buying that based on the evidence, since, not much of it has been shown. But it looks like this might not be the last of these strikes.
The President of the United States is going to wage war on narco-terrorist organizations. This one was operating in international waters, headed towards the United States to flood our country with poison, and under President Trump, those days are over.
So, we may just see a 3rd strike in a row, which would be impressive, because as bowlers know, that's a turkey. Senate Judiciary Committee Chairman Chuck Grassley revealed that the FBI's 2022 election probe into Donald Trump, called Arctic Frost, which sounds like a new Taco Bell exclusive Mountain Dew flavor, also investigated Charlie Kirk's Turning Point USA and other prominent Republicans.
In total, 92 Republican targets, including Republican groups and Republican-linked individuals, were placed under investigative scope of Arctic Frost. On that political list was one of Charlie Kirk's group's Turning Point USA. In other words, Arctic Frost wasn't just a case to politically investigate Trump. It was the vehicle by which partisan FBI agents and Department of Justice prosecutors could achieve their partisan ends and improperly investigate the entire Republican political apparatus.
92. That's one for every year Grassley has been alive. This investigation was led by Special Counsel Jack Smith, who looks like me if I raised 11 teenage daughters. FBI Director Kash Patel vowed that the FBI will not be weaponized anymore on either side of the aisle.
What I am doing is protecting this country, providing historic reform, and combating the weaponization of intelligence by the likes of you.
In case you're wondering what all that shouting is about, Patel made the remarks you just saw while speaking with Adam Schiff during a Senate hearing. Schiff was the chair of the House Intelligence Committee when Arctic Frost, which is in fact an actual vodka brand, began. But hey, Kash promised that the FBI wouldn't be weaponized anymore, and Kash always keeps his promises.
So will you work with me on this issue so we know who worked with Jeffrey Epstein in building these sex trafficking rings?
Absolutely, Senator. Child sex trafficking has no place in the United States of America, and I will do everything, if confirmed as FBI director, to make sure the American public knows the full weight of what happened in the past.
A few moments later.
Who, if anyone, did Epstein traffic these young women to besides himself?
Himself. There is no credible information. None. If there were, I would bring the case yesterday that he trafficked to other individuals.
Wow, I guess we all owe Prince Andrew an apology. This is a picture of an innocent man right here. What do you think? Leave your comments below with that American flag emoji. And before you go, again, check out this video about the history of Antifa. Once again, I'm Chris Chappell. Thank you for watching America Uncovered.